Hi, everybody. Um, I'm Nick Phan, and I'm the Artistic Director of Collaborative Arts Institute of Chicago. And I'm here to host our second episode of Heard Over the Piano. And I am excited to have our two special guests for tomorrow's Leader Lounge broadcast, tenor Jonathan Johnson and Craig Terry. And if you guys will unmute and come join me, that'd be really great. Hi, guys.
Hi. Hey,
Hey,
Nick.
How are you?
Great. Excited
yeah,
to be here.
doing really well.
Um, I loved watching you guys film on Sunday. These guys filmed their entire concert for us live on Sunday and had a fantastic filming session. And this is a really exciting opportunity today. Thank you so much for being here to for our audiences to get to know you a little bit. So, Jonathan, I feel like you're the newest person to the CAIC family here. So, um, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how you got into music?
Yeah. Um, so I am from Macon, Georgia. Grew up there, and that's where I started my musical life. I grew up singing in church choirs, um, children's choir, youth choir, and it was just something that I liked doing, that I did for fun, that I didn't know would eventually turn into this career path that I find myself on. Um, but did choir in high school. I did band in high school. I did the musicals. There was just something about the arts that always just kept pulling me back. So it became a natural choice, even though I thought that I would go into something like medicine. Um, I decided to give music a shot and audition for music scholarships, and
Wow.
that was, yeah,
So, did you say you played in band? What did you play?
trumpet.
Right.
Yeah. My father had a trumpet, and so when I wanted to join band, we had the trumpet. So that's what I just picked it up and was like, I guess I'll play this.
So, how did you get from trumpet to singing?
Well, I'd been singing the whole time, and trumpet was newer to me. I had also taken piano for several years when I was starting around maybe 7 or 8. Um, but then I started playing sports, and then that took me out of piano, and then I found my way back into instrumental music through band in high school, and actually I got to be the drum major my senior year, which was so much fun. But yeah, singing was always the thing that I took more seriously.
And so, did you study singing in college? Did you just say, I'm going to be a singer and go into it? Or.
I I auditioned for music scholarships and got my bachelor's of music in vocal performance from Mercer University in my hometown of Macon, Georgia. And from there, auditioned and got into the A.J. Fletcher Opera Institute at the University of North Carolina School for the Arts, and did my master's there, and then stayed one more year for a performing artist certificate before accepting a position at the Ryan Opera Center. So it just kind of kept going.
As promised, my video is giving me problems. Um, Sorry about that, guys. So, wow. And then Craig, I mean, we know you because you have been a part of our family here for a long time now. But you know, tell us tell us about how where you're from and how you got into music and give us
I
your
grew up
story.
in Tullahoma, Tennessee, and my dad's family are all bluegrass pickers and players. And so I can't ever remember a time when I didn't play the piano, which seems kind of crazy. I mean, not anything complicated, but just sit down and, play 1 4 5 1, whatever. If they were just typical, bluegrass country folk songs of the period for holidays and things like that. And then in my small town in Tennessee were just incredible teachers and colleagues. And when I was in elementary school, there were these two amazing Black sisters whose mother was an incredible gospel pianist and singer herself, who would coach me. And I played with them hundreds of times for so many civic events and things in school. And it never occurred to me that when singers sang, the audience didn't go totally crazy. And I didn't realize that, because they would bring the house down every time. They were loved by every person, and they could really sing. I mean, the recordings, even hearing it now, occasionally my parents had these recordings, and I think, wow, I mean, that was some serious talent to have around me as a way to try. And we did the collective works of Whitney Houston and Anita Baker, and that's what we did. And it was super fun as a thing. So I always loved playing with singers, but didn't realize there was a way to do it as a profession. And so I got degrees in piano and music ed, and went to New York and studied with Warren Jones, who I thought I was going to be studying chamber music. I had no idea. I mean, Warren knows this, I can say it out loud, but we have the same birthday, but I didn't really know who he was. He had a super cool bio, and I thought in those days, I didn't have a trial lesson, whatever. I mean, this was the 1900s. And there's no way to email someone and make it happen. So I realized that he had like the 12 best singers in the school in his studio class. And I had, a studio full of incredible pianists. And I was, definitely like the one that was the greenest and needed to catch up. But that's how I started. And then all of a sudden I was playing with singers all the time. And, fast forward through various training programs, and, this is what life is like.
Here you are. Gosh, that explains why you just are like such a, you can go from genre to genres don't exist for you. I mean, it's the way you kind of float back and forth is always amazing to me. That explains totally why you can do that to me. If you've just been living and breathing music of any and every genre since you were basically born, that's incredible.
That's so lovely of you to say. I mean, I feel like not all the time is true, but for many American artists, I find that classical music is crossover, because it's not how I started. That wasn't my original language. I mean, I loved it, and I had a amazing piano teacher who encouraged us to. And her her brother was the pianist at the Plaza Hotel in New York, my high school piano teacher, and he is an amazing jazz pianist, and he played there forever. And so it was important to her that we all be able to improvise, and that everything we played that was classical sounded like it was improvised, that it never sounded as though you had played it hundreds of times. And that was always the thing that she instilled in us. And I was always super grateful for that, because it served me well. And I still think of it now as being a really important part of my own music making and artistry and things like that.
It's so interesting, because I feel like oftentimes American musicians can be trained like we're learning this great tradition, and so we're trying to learn all the rules, and we get so much of our education can be focused on that, and as a result sometimes it's very easy for us to sound like we're following instructions as opposed to treating everything like it's a living, breathing thing. And it sounds like you were being trained to treat music like a living, breathing thing from the very get-go. It was very lucky.
I didn't realize how lucky I was at the time, but I'm so grateful to her and to all. I so many great teachers when I was in my. I was blessed in our small town. There still is a huge engineering community and international community. There's a University of Tennessee Space Institute there. So education was important, and the arts were really important. So every facet of the arts was well represented and beloved in the town. So we all got tons of opportunities to perform. And again, I think about that now, and I'm super grateful that I lived in a place where I got to, make tons of mistakes all the time, and it didn't matter, but I still got to walk on stage all the time and do it.
Amazing.
Wow.
So, did you have important teachers in your path, Jonathan? Anybody who sticks out that you feel like you carry with you to this day?
Yeah, and that's my first voice teacher, Marie Gerald Roberts, and yes, she instilled in me a love of the process, and to know when it's time to work and when it's time to give the gift. And I remember for my junior recital, when I was an undergrad at Mercer, I was very, very nervous. I was very, very tense. And she looked at me and she said, "Jonathan, you've put in all the work, and all of these people have come to hear what you have to say. Give them the gift. Tell them thank you." And that has stuck with me to this day, that as easy as it is for us as musicians to, know that we need to keep going back, keep retuning things, from the last time we sang these songs, I'll say songs because of the leader lounge, that there are things that we want to change, or oh, well, maybe this didn't land quite right in my technique. But when it's time to perform, we're not in the workshop anymore, and that sticks with me today. And so Miss Marie always, I call her my second mother. There's a special place in my heart for her.
That's amazing. I feel like this gift that you guys are both given of teachers who are teaching you how to be free is, musically speaking, that's the most valuable thing anyone can ever give you besides a strong foundation. That's so great. Mm-hmm. And so, you work a lot with Chris Body, is that correct, Jonathan?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Tell us about that. Would you consider that kind of crossing genres, or do you feel like you're sort of still in your classical wheelhouse, or?
For his shows, I feel like I'm still more in my classical wheelhouse, which, if I may be so bold as to say, is my part of his 2-hour show. Mm-hmm. It first started, he was looking for a new tenor to sing on his show, and I'll never forget it, because Craig, you helped me. You and Dan helped me get ready for it. We recorded this little video and sent him of me singing, and the thing is that he ran into Renee Fleming and asked her, and then she, being creative consultant at Lyric, that's kind of how the ball got rolling and got to me. I sang for Chris on this video. He loved it, and he said, "So, can you come to Lincoln Center? I'm doing a gala with the New York Philharmonic." And that was my first gig with Chris Bode, was singing Time to Say Goodbye with him and the New York Philharmonic. And it blew my mind. It was so much fun, because as singers sometimes will think too much in one area of singing, and to have this crossover classical connection, I feel frees me up between all of the different repertoire. I love it, and they're struggling just like we are right now, because they tour around, and so they're kind of, the touring machine is toned down right now. But they're a great group of people. They are just incredibly nice and genuine, and I think the world of them. And so I'm proud that I get to share my voice with more people through Chris.
That's incredible. It's so easy for us to kind of be siloed in our classical world, and so it's amazing to have that opportunity to reach out and reach wider audiences, and invite more people through our doors in a way. Does it feel like you're doing that?
It does. I've run across some people that I've talked to after the show, and they're like, "Oh my God, this is incredible. Where can I hear more stuff like this?" And then in my head, I'm like, "Okay, what city am I in? Okay, what are the local, arts organizations here? Start plugging that." And with classical music, sometimes I feel that people add an extra layer of distance between them and us as classical musicians, and that isn't real. It's like some kind of cultural block that, oh, well, that's not for me, that's for other. But it's not. It's for everybody. And as singers, we speak to these universal truths that you can find in all other types of art media, whether it's film or beautiful orchestral music or a great TV show or these live concerts, these art songs, operas, oratorios. These universal principles are woven throughout all of them. And exposing people to that wakes them up to the fact that I want more of this. I feel this. This is something I need in my life.
Amazing. Craig, so you won a Grammy recently, and we're kind of not totally drifting from topic, because that album really kind of threw the idea of genre out the window, didn't it?
It was, it was a total thrill to be a part of that and to get to do it. And, I had always thought, because, think about in the way that, you are brilliant at improvising in Baroque music that I've heard you do so many times.
Thank you.
But you know, that's what happened in those times, that people, and people who are great at Baroque music, they're improvising constantly. And I kind of wondered, if you have a melody and any kind of possible figured bass, maybe you could make something totally different as long as you serve the words and the story means what you want it to mean. It's possible to change things around. So Joyce, she was over here for dinner one night in, like, I don't know, 2013 or 14. We were about to go on tour, I think. And we started with Caro Mio Ben, and which is such a hackneyed thing for most classical singers, are like, oh my God, please don't make me sing that, because mostly, it's done by 13-year-olds going to their first lesson who want to sing Wicked and then have to sing Caro Mio Ben. And so it's like always this thing that people hate to do because they just don't want to do that. And I think it's such a beautiful song. I always have thought that. And it's just a simple message in a way that most great songs are. And so playing around with that and seeing what was possible, we did it as an encore on the very first concerts we ever did together. Well, it was in Princeton, New Jersey, actually. And the audience went crazy. What was funny about it was that there were all these kids from Westminster Choir College there who all, of course, they understood what the joke was, but all of the regular concert goers in that particular series thought it was some kind of Princeton anthem or something that they should have known that was like, and it was a big inside joke. And from the moment the audience went crazy for that, Joyce and I thought, well, maybe there's something to this. Maybe we should do it. So the next year we did a tour of South America and Spain and Portugal, I think. And we did a set of 3. And it looks so funny on the program because you go through all of these different things. And then the penultimate thing is Caro Mio Ben, Sei tu mami, and Star Vicino. And you think, at the Colón in Buenos Aires, why in the world is that like the next to the big Rossini aria to finish the night or whatever? And every night it was like a revelation. And I thought, if the audience really appreciates this as a thing and it seems authentic and they're totally into it, maybe we should do it. So I arranged a lot of music for jazz quintet. So we had bass, drums, bandoneon. We have this incredible bandoneon player who's from the Piazzolla band, who is just, it's such a beautiful, he plays so beautifully. And every time I hear him, you sort of stop and you listen, you take it in. And so we all met at, in your place at Skywalker Ranch.
I wish it were my place.
It is your place. Come on. You've recorded all this great music there. And that's what we did. And so, and again, in what we do, I think to take a chance on something new and different, we were prepared for some people to really hate it as a construct and think, well, they're making fun of this. But the point of it for us was not to make fun of it, was just to give that music our whole heart and attention, and to make something that told the story and connected with the audience. And so to have it rewarded in that way was a great thrill. I mean, I think that was probably the hardest work I've done on a project in my life. Like being here in my little area with like my electric keyboard here and my computer and spending lots of time. And all the guys in the band were great. And it was, to come together in that way, it took some doing, and we all brought different things, but it was a great thrill. And then to have it rewarded in that way was just like off the charts. I felt so fortunate.
That's an incredible story. And I mean, the album is so fun, and
thanks.
Your arrangements are so creative. I love it. It's interesting, like Baroque music, again, there's this idea, especially with all the scholarship that's been done over the last couple of decades, where people take it so seriously. And I mean, of course the composers themselves took it seriously too, but they they were themselves changing these things every single time they performed it, because you were kind of grabbing whatever was around and making it work. They were thinking of their stuff as living and breathing stuff.
Well, and for Joyce, she's so magnificent at Baroque music and the way that she's so communicative, and she has, virtuosic skill in that way that she can, sing fast notes for hours and also with like a tremendous beauty and connection. I think that also, it was important to us that she just sang the way that she sings and not try to change it up in a way that seemed inauthentic, and that was kind of the most important part of that for us.
It was super successful. So back to the two of you here. Do you guys want to tell us how you met? And I mean, we've sort of covered this, but you know, let's review.
Jonathan.
Craig.
How did we meet?
The first time I remember Craig Terry was, when was it? When I auditioned for the Rhine Opera Center. That was when, because I saw Craig right afterwards. And what I didn't know at the time was I would be spending a lot of time around Craig over the next several years, because I joined the ensemble and started working with Craig, and because Craig, you were also my boss. You're the music director of the Rhine Opera Center. So it started in that way, and if I may be so bold, it's gone from being my boss and my principal, like, coach, pushing me forward into this like mentor friendship, and I think that's just beautiful, and I love, you know, having a collaborator and friend like you in my life. And we've worked together in the Rhine Opera Center for I was there for 3 seasons. We did a Liederabend at the Poetry Foundation. We did Dichterliebe together. We did the Dan Myra Hess concert at the Cultural Center. I mean, Craig, you've played 2 recitals for me in my hometown of Macon, Georgia. Thank you so much. I performed on your Beyond the Aria. I mean, like, WFMT. Oh, and with the German consulate as a guest with Neue Stimmen. That was a lot of fun.
That's right. That
Yeah.
was super fun. We'll jump in Washington when there was, I mean, this is like, you know, super pre-COVID, but like visa issues like didn't work out. So Jonathan came and saved the day, which was really great. It makes me so happy. I mean, it's true. Like, what I love is that when people finish the Opera Center, we can all just be friends and make music together in a way that is not about what those 3 years are like, or 2 years or whatever, where that's a different thing about trying to help people just find their way forward in terms of, you know, being a young musician. I mean, I was certainly, I mean, a bit of a disaster in my 20s, and figuring out who you are and then being authentic about that is really important. And helping people find their way into their own, whatever their truth is, having that come out through their music making. And obviously, you know, it has to work in the opera house because it has to work in that theater. But there are infinite opportunities through song and through different wildly divergent genres of music to focus your efforts in that way. And I think that is super fun. So it makes me happy. I'm so proud of Jonathan. We all are in the Opera Center. And, you know, it's wonderful to see people find their way and do it. And it's, you know, it's one of the great joys of my life.
It seems to me like, I mean, Craig, just from having worked with you and observed you working with younger singers especially, it feels like the way you approach a lot of your work as a coach and a music director and a mentor is really about empowerment. Again, trying to pass on those feelings, those, you know, empowering your singers who are with you and the pianists who come through with you too, to be free to express themselves in the ways in which they wish to, and also, you know, free to explore those things. Does that make it easy for you to, or easier for you to switch from being, you know, mentor to being recital colleague once, you know?
I think so. That's what my hope for everyone is when they finish, they don't need us anymore. I mean, they're welcome to come back and do things with us. And, or for me personally, I would never want someone to feel as if I expected them to ask me every question about their career, because that is ridiculous. We're all running around doing what we're doing. But I do feel like now in the current climate, the best we can do for any artist is to help them walk in front of every audience and be authentic and light it up. Because it depends, I mean, all of what we do depends on connection to the audience. It's about what they feel. And in this new format, it's even more important because if they don't feel our energy and authenticity through the screen, they'll just turn it off. I mean, as we're scrolling through whatever we're doing, I mean, in a way, I feel this could produce a whole new generation of even more vibrant artists and musicians, because we all just have to be.
Jonathan, what is it like on your side? I mean, was that an easy switch for you? And
Going from like
going from like a
Craig,
young artist to like, being Craig's colleague.
that the part being Craig's colleague, that part came so naturally, and like the times that Craig and I worked together, it was very clear when we were in the workshop getting things done and when it was time to make art. And Craig always pulled that out. He knows how to allow people to be artists and help them find, like you yourself said, Craig, their own voice, their own path, but that authentic version of themselves that they can share. And there's a freedom, and it's okay if we try something and then it doesn't work. It's like, great, okay, we won't do that. Let's try this other way next time. And so yeah, I felt like it unfolded very naturally.
And do you find working in these times and in these these creative ways in which we're embracing new technologies or new technologies, is that affecting your artistry and the way you communicate too?
I'll admit that I do miss having people in the same room. When I do recitals, I find that I will sing to people because that connection is so important and part of that live performance experience. But because it's part of that live performance experience, now we have this, live stream recorded these performances in that way, and I think it presents its own moments for being just as special. It's just an adjustment. It's just trying to capture that moment that would be spontaneous, that would be like I would never look at the same person, even if I sang the same, like if everything was the same and I gave the exact same recital, that doesn't mean that I would sing the same phrase to that same person, like I mentioned. And that, like capturing that is something that, since this is the first thing like this that I've done, I hope that I can do and can continue to refine.
Well, I mean, I felt very spoiled the other day because I felt like I was getting a recital for one person watching you guys.
Oh,
You
Even
are
though
the
I was watching you
loveliest.
through Zoom. No, it was gorgeous, and I can't wait for everybody to hear it tomorrow. Speaking of this program, what drew you guys to these songs? You want to tell us about the program and tell us what maybe inspired these choices of repertoire?
Sure. I'll jump right in. The recital or the Leader Lounge, it'll open with a set of Duparc songs, and at least I believe it does.
It does.
And yeah. And these are songs that I learned as a young artist, and Craig and I have performed them before, and I really love them. I love the subjects of the songs. I love singing them, and I want to share them. The different songs that we've collected, they deal with several different emotional paths. We have like new, exciting like possibilities in one, and we have this like established love and appreciation, this longing to escape or being haunted by something that you had to flee from, and just despair at losing a loved one. And they speak to like I said earlier, these fundamental human experiences that we all have. And so that was all of that together made it a very, very natural choice to program. And then after that is something that I've been wanting to perform for like years, and that's Winter Words by Benjamin Britten. And I had not been exposed to much Britain until graduate school, when the musical director of the A.J. Fletcher Opera Institute, Jamie Albritton, said, "Jonathan, you're a tenor. How do you not know Britain?" And I was like, "Okay, Jamie." So I jumped on the Britain train a little bit and learned the Serenade for Tenor, Horn, and Strings and performed that on my graduate recital. And there was something about these songs for Winter Words that I wanted to do. I learned a few of them when I was a young artist at the Ryan Opera Center, and this seemed like the perfect opportunity to program them. It was originally going to be more thematic because it would have been winter, but with the delay, I know it still works. The songs are really well crafted, and the more time I've spent with them, the more I'm seeing that. It's like each text, which is from a much larger collection of poems, the ones that Britain chose, I feel they all have this beautiful kind of through line to the final song in the cycle, where you have these moments of, at times, incredibly just ordinary things that lead me to think about what other things in our lives could have more meaning behind them. The example that I'm referencing is the table. There's a song about a little table that just has a little creak, and the poet doesn't know where this creak came from, and is left wondering about it. And there are so many moments in our lives where we or other people, we all have a hidden history because not everybody knows everything. And most of the time we won't know the whole story. And it's on us to explore that. And I think that's beautiful. I mean, I could give you a play-by-play of all of each song and like the thing that I find special about it, but it's just, again, thematically throughout the cycle, speaking to these truths that we have in our lives, whether it's looking at a forest and going, it's always looked this way, but there was a time these trees weren't here. And there will be a time when they're not here anymore. And, that might be hundreds of years, but for us, that's our entire existence. But that's not all. Like we feel that these things that are happening to us in our world have always been and will always be. But in this cycle, I'm reminded that they won't, but they don't have to be either, which is not necessarily an impetus to be passive. I find it the exact opposite.
Well, right. So, I mean, once you get to the end, you're not passive at all, are you? You're kind of
no.
You're resisting how slowly time moves in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I found it. This whole time, I hadn't thought about it until much later. About 3 weekends ago, I went to Provincetown on a little super safe with a COVID test holiday that I went on, and we saw Marilyn May, who was one of my. I love this singer. She's 93 years old. We saw her in New York maybe last year. Title of her show was "I Wish I Were 90 Again." She still sounds amazing. She was Johnny Carson's favorite singer. And she was on the show, The Tonight Show, maybe 80 times. And to hear her sing a song like Here's to Life, she still sounds amazing, by the way. And to hear a 93-year-old person sing Here's to Life, and then think about these poems were published posthumously, and it was the year that he died, Hardy. And then Britain wrote them when he was 40. And to me, there are lots of interesting things to think about with that. So if you're at the end of your life and you're thinking about these little moments that you either didn't figure out or that were really important to you in your study of people who are older, in the past 3 weeks, that's kind of been my thought about what these songs are. could be a remembrance because not necessarily for Britton, who chose them when he was 40 or published them when he did. Maybe this is more a Nick Phan question. You probably know this a lot more than I do, but I that's kind of what I thought about it. So I always think of them as maybe unanswered questions from late, from like knowing the end is coming. You get to the end of that, and some of the things are funny. I mean, when I talk to people who are older, the things they remember from, and having spent, like, my mother-in-law passed away like 4 months ago, and I saw her at Christmas, and to talk to her about what it was like when she like traveled to Europe in that one summer when she was there backpacking around Europe, and little anecdotal things. And so for me, Winter Words is just that. It's like it's an amalgamation of like a life of experiences that some of them maybe are feelings from now, or some of them are recollections from before. But it kind of, I thought about it actually when I was thinking about Marilyn May, and it kind of informed this trip through Winter Words.
Gosh, what a story. I mean, I can only imagine thinking about them from a 93-year-old's perspective.
There's a great article in the New York Times. It's a few years ago now. I think the person who wrote it was 92 and talked about, it's a beautifully written, I think it was in Sunday Magazine, about how people don't listen to you. They just assume that what you have to say, because it takes longer to think of it and say it, is a different thing. And just in the way that music is all about what has been with us in our lives in the last bit of time, as the words come across the page, with things that you do. I mean, you're both younger than I am, but as you play things over and over again, the things that you may be, like today, for example, I was recording downtown playing a song that I first played when I was, 19. It's a very different feeling. Because it means different things every time. So for me, that's what Winter Words this time encapsulated, just thinking about, them being perhaps the last poems that Hardy wrote. Maybe they weren't, but they were very late.
All his poems were late. He actually didn't write a lot of poetry until the end of his life, which is interesting. He was mostly writing novels before then.
It's a lot to say.
And I mean, this is the thing about great pieces of art, right? I mean, these are things that live with us, and our experiences with them continue to change as we grow. And even in just 8 months, Jonathan, that we were originally planning to perform these in February, and then we had to postpone. And even in those 8 months, I'm sure you feel like you're saying, things still apply, and you gain more insight into them moment by moment, because it's just the kind of music and poetry that stands the test of time and speaks to a life experience. So, Jonathan, I feel like you talked about some of your highlighted favorites there. Craig, do you have a favorite or highlight from the program that you're excited about or that you enjoyed?
Well, I love all of it. I mean, it's all very... the Duparc songs for me are interesting. I think La Vie Intérieure is my absolute favorite Duparc song, at least. But I think it's all about mystery. Like, what happened? What happened that you're being, fanned by naked people? What? You're like in this luxurious place you left, like you're in this different kind of life. It's fascinating. I always like to ask people what they think happened.
What do you think happened?
I don't know. I think this is a PG show, isn't it?
Yeah, probably. I mean, we're on Facebook Live.
I'm totally teasing, but I know a lot of people that have run from things. I've certainly run from things in my life. And I think that's the beauty of what all this music is, that we just kind of find the intersection with our own story that makes it seem authentic today. And, I can name any number of things that I ran away from in my life that, many of which were good things to run from, and some of them were not good things to run from. But I think that's what makes, c'est là, that moment, after the storm happens, it's like, yeah, that's what it is. So I think that's great. I mean, of course, I love Mario Lanza. I mean, I think, he, in the way that Jonathan's talking about Chris Bodie, he was a person who totally crossed genres. He was a fantastic singer and a fantastic actor. And he helped connect the dots for lots of people in North America about classical music, because he sang in the opera house, and then he was like an arena singer. He would sell out, the biggest stadiums in North America because he could sing. It wasn't because he had like 30 backup dancers to like help make the show, to take focus from the show. Like the show was him. And he was able to connect with a whole generation of people who needed to hear that music. You know, it was, as a wartime thing too, if your person is across the ocean, to hear Be My Love in the way that you heard it on your date 2 years ago before they went, it was a real thing. And I feel like now our nostalgia meter is a little bit different as a society. We don't, for me, most of that music is pop music from when I was a kid. If I can remember, you know, what was played at my junior high dances or my high school dances or things like that, that was like a big moment of, you know, what it was. And so, and of course for classical music too, but I think those kind of evocative, wonderful storytelling songs sung by a fantastic singer, they resonated with the public. And I feel like this is an opportunity we all have now, is that we can do the same thing. We can mean the stories that we tell in various genres. And, you know, and I mean, the two of you do this so brilliantly. This is just like, you know, a no-brainer for you two in your beautiful artistic lives. But I feel like to show people these songs sung beautifully, but done kind of with a sense of fun too, that like there are some beautiful things in it. And then there, you know, it can also be a little bit lighthearted and show something different. So that makes me, I don't know, I think it's fun to show those kinds of things. And, you know, come on, like a tenor singing that music, it's just totally American and iconic in that way. I love that.
Well, it sounded amazing. Again, I can't wait for everybody to hear these tomorrow. Your high notes, Jonathan, I was like so envious. It sounds so easy.
Oh, thanks, Nick.
Let me just pause to say to the audience, whoever's watching, you know, if you've got questions, please throw them into the comments. We welcome any questions for Craig and Jonathan from you guys if you have them. But what I want to talk about next actually is I just want to sort of take what you're talking about, Craig, and ask you guys, you know, in these times we've been talking about genres, we've been talking about freedom, we've been talking about sharing stories and the importance of being able to share those stories and sort of taking things off of their pedestals and treating them as living, breathing things. How do you feel this applies to, you know, the art of the vocal recital and in this day and age? And I mean, this moment obviously is kind of a strange boon for the vocal recital because, you know, it's easier for us to do these things than to put on, you know, Valkyra. But what are please share more thoughts about that if you have them.
Sure. I'm incredibly grateful for what we can do now. And now we all have a platform and an opportunity that we haven't really had in this way. That, you know, it's hard in one respect because as performers, you know, we're used to getting replenished by the audience. Every night we go out there to do it. And now, in a way, it's up to us to replenish ourselves. And if we can pick repertoire that is not, that it's for us and it's for the audience in a way that truly reflects who we are, I think we have a chance to really improve the way recitals are thought about. You know, I did a concert with the genesis of, Nick, you were there for, with Susan Graham, when we did this crazy 70s show that we did, right? We did a show of like, great, and she was so great. And I remember this night because you were there at her house and we were there, you know, this was the first time we'd even read through anything.
I don't know why I was there. I know you guys were very generous to let me sit in on that brainstorming session, and
it was super fun.
Amazing to watch the two of you work. No, I mean, I just sat there and drank wine. You guys like did.
We were also drinking wine, and you know, it made for some. But you know, to have the songs of Carole King and to have, you know, the Carpenters and things like that. And when we did it in New York, the thing that I had not realized before that is that when we do music of Mario Lanza, it's a lot of our audience's parents. It was their music. But when we do music of the 70s, it was their childhood music. And it elicited a totally different response than I would have ever imagined from the people in the audience that I knew in New York who were, you know, of a certain age, and they were mouthing all the words to these songs. And it shocked me to see these people that I knew who are like diehard classical music lovers. I mean, they love it so much. They love the opera. They love recitals. They're there to see that. But I think now, you know, if we sing this, if we pick songs that are meaningful to us, and for Susie, they were meaningful too, because she remembered playing them on the piano when she was a kid. She had a real connection to that, emotionally, to her parents and her family. And so I think in terms of the art song recital now, if we're thinking about the audience and things that, if we deliver them in a way that's authentic and honest and well, like, you know, well sung, like not trying to sound like somebody else, but with our own voices in an authentic way, I feel like we can reach a whole new audience of people in the way that Mario Lanza did. And I think it's happening. People are doing it. Like, I'm so grateful for this opportunity with the AIC, because it gives us a chance to perform music that we love, that we have personal connections to, that we hope will translate like in a pretty visceral way across the screen when people watch it. And I think it's a great opportunity. What do you guys think?
I mean, I agree, Jonathan.
I mean, I completely agree too. And the Britain Song Cycle is actually like the epitome of that, because it's something that I've always wanted to program. I've always wanted, well, not always, not since I was born, obviously, but I mean, at least for several years, I've been looking for a place to plug it in, and this was the perfect place. This is the perfect place, the perfect opportunity. I've talked with my wife about it, but with this extra time, I'm thinking, well, what are some song texts that speak to me? Maybe I have a little bit of extra time. I could delve more into these different composers. I mean, I didn't do that back in March, but I'm doing that now. But for me, it's reinvigorated my curiosity, and I find that I'm hungrier for these songs. It could be like my project for the day is I'll wake up and I've done this, and I'll just open a book and be like, well, let's see. Well, let me read the translation of this. Does this speak to me? No, turn the page. And it's having that extra time and putting that extra thought into what I want to say that I think is beautiful about this, because we are blessed and cursed with extra time right now, whether we like it or not. But channeling it in this way, I think is incredible, and I hope, even, knock on wood, when this ends very soon, hopefully, we'll see, we can keep this with us, this kind of this new media to share song. We can go back to the concert hall, but we can also do these too, and stay more well-rounded in access.
It's funny, in the opera house, as a singer, we have sort of less artistic control, right? We're just constantly trying to fit ourselves into whichever, peg fits the best in many ways. And, we're sort of at the whims of casting directors and a lot of different, a lot of different opinions on different panels. And when you have this choice of like song repertoire, which, as Craig is saying, right now we're making that even broader. It's kind of, when I first was thinking about these things, it was mind-boggling to me, and I was overwhelmed by the choice, and I was overwhelmed by having choices, and that's, I think, part of the thing that, really got me so passionate about the art form. And it sounds like you're having sort of a similar experience in this moment, with this moment to explore songs for you. Does that sound fair?
Oh,
Nick,
yeah.
Nick, you were infinitely curious as a person, and so I've learned so much new repertoire from attending your recitals and collaborating with you and all of that. And that's one of the things that CAIC is amazing. That is amazing about this organization? Because it seems to be like front and center in your mission.
Well, I mean, we're super inspired by people like you too. You know, it's this idea that we don't have to necessarily take anything for granted. We just want people to love it, and like we love it, and the only way to do that is to share it, and as Jonathan says, you know, give the gift, and that's all we're trying to do here. But it's thanks to people like you who are enabling us to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, tomorrow, is it going to be weird for you guys to watch yourselves?
Yes
It's
and no.
always weird. Yeah, it's always weird. Go ahead, Jonathan. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I'm a terrible audience member to my own art. There's a chance I'll watch it live. I'll say that. There's a chance I'll watch it at 7. But no, I mean, I probably will watch it, but for me, I've given the gift, and I will want to watch it and see how it all works together as one unit in this form that it is now, which is really exciting. But yeah, also, I'm not good at my own art, which may be a deficiency on my part. But yeah, that's long and short of it.
Craig?
You know, it's hard to watch yourself. It's hard to listen to yourself because, you know, for better or for worse, what your truth was your truth, right? Even if it was good or it was not as good as you wanted, it was still the truth. And I think if you're an artist, we're always in search of that perfect take or that perfect phrase that we had imagined in our minds or something like that. And, you know, we all love to live in the moment, but then facing the consequences of living in the moment is its own thing. But, you know, I don't know, at this point, especially now, after 6 months of doing everything virtually, it's easier now than it was like 2 or 3 years ago. I will say that, because we're doing it all the time. So, and again, looking in the mirror is never wasted energy. Like what it was, and really saying like, okay, that was good, that could have been better, I'll learn from that for next time. Perhaps, you know, a lot more of that could have been happening in my life earlier. So in a way, I'm kind of grateful that now I'm forced to listen to, like, you know, for every virtual concert we have, not this one is all complete takes of individual songs. But as we're, you know, working on recording projects or other things, listening to like the same edit 30 times, it's important to our growth. And so I think in terms of that, I look forward to seeing it and seeing, you know, where we were on Sunday, and then where from there, where can we go?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny. It is a bit of a skill, right? You know, it's interesting to hear you say that it's been getting easier during this time because we're doing so much of this. And listening to yourself is really a skill that's built over time. I mean, actually, like you were just saying about albums, my first album, I actually sat in the room with the editor, with the engineer, while we edited, made the first edit of the CD.
Oh my God.
And there was like, you know, there were 3 of us in there because one of the other executive producers of the album was in there, and it was brutal to kind of tear apart each take by take. And, you know, I wanted to the expression you just demonstrated was how I felt for that entire 8 hours of my life. And, however many hours, it was a ton of hours, probably more than 8. But yeah, it's funny, after that, you realize looking in the mirror is not necessarily, it's not wasted energy.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's absolutely right.
We don't seem to have any questions, but we do have lots of lovely comments. You're getting lots of props and lots of loves from people. Oh, wait, we do have questions.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm so bad at looking at the comments right here. We have a comment from Oliver Camacho that says, "I'm desperate to hear these two in Du Parc tomorrow. I've always said that Jonathan's tone is a Maserati."
Oh, thanks, Oliver.
Thanks.
You're very fine car there. Yeah, no, you've got a lot of love here in the comment thread. No questions, which that's fine. Do you guys have any parting thoughts for us? Anything you want to share with us before we
I just want to
say
say
goodbye
thank
to
you.
Facebook?
Yeah, just thanks for doing this, because
Mhm.
I understand in these times how difficult it is to put things on. Like I know, and every performance that we do now takes was like 50 times the effort that any other performance pre-COVID took. From the planning and the health things and finding times that work and being sure that everything is safe. Um, when I found out that this was happening and your festival was happening, I, I was so grateful, but also I'm just full of admiration, because now, basically working on like one or two big projects a month and having it consume, you know, hours and hours and hours in a time in which I just want to go and play a concert I've played before with someone and show up the night before, do the concert in front of thousands of people, and fly home the next day. And that's not what it is.
Yeah.
And that's the easiest thing in the world to do. It's the easiest thing in the world to do, is to fly, play, come back. But to actually put something on, Nick and Shannon and everyone, and Mr. Hutchison, like I know what a big deal it is. So I just want to say thank you. What you do is so important, and I'm honored every time to be a part of your series. So thank
Well, that means a lot. That's very kind of you, and thank you for being willing to, take the risks and make the music keep going.
Yeah.
Jonathan, you have any
Well,
parting thoughts for us?
well, I mean, I also want to thank you. I mean, this is the first experience like this that I've had, and it was so easy and smooth. And I was telling Craig when we were recording, and you were there too. I was like, this is great. We should do this all the time. Like, I, I mean, and that's me not understanding all the work that has to go on the front end of something like this. And so I'm incredibly appreciative of the opportunity to give my voice, to give my gift, to get to collaborate with Craig, and let people have access to these beautiful songs that people, I mean, they feel it. People need it.
Yeah, people do need it, including us.
yeah.
I mean, we don't choose this life lightly. I don't think we're drawn to it like moths to flame. And
Mhm.
I mean, audiences need it. That's why they support us like they do, and we're so grateful to them. But
Yeah.
also, we need it. And I mean, I have to just say again, listening to you guys on Sunday was such a joy. I felt so lucky, even though again I was doing it through Zoom, but it was magical, and I cannot wait for everybody to hear your hard work. I think we're gonna say goodbye to Facebook now. So unless anybody has anything more they want to say.
Tune in on tomorrow.
Yay. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for doing this today. Just before we go, next week we're actually not going to be on Thursday. For anybody who wants to tune in next week we are going to be on Wednesday, because one of our guests preferred Wednesday. And we're going to talk about women as collaborative pianists next week, and we're going to start looking ahead towards the festival. And the panelists are going to be Myra Huang, who's amazing, and
Amazing.
a dear friend of Craig's and mine, and
Oh.
also Shannon McGinnis, one of our
Also
co-founders,
amazing.
also amazing, and also a dear friend of ours.
Yes, exactly.
So tune in tomorrow, tune in next Wednesday if you have some time Wednesday evening. We're going to talk about women in collaborative piano, and we will see all of you soon. Thank you so much, Facebook, and take care. Have a good evening.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, so.